Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the June 17th MLB DraftKings lineup card. We have 12 games on the slate for this evening. One with rain in the forecast. That's in Boston, where the U.S. Open is going on right now as well. There's a little bit of rain in the forecast for that game. And then there are two starting pitchers that haven't been announced yet. We have a couple of injury situations that we'll have to monitor. Hopefully those lineups will come out during the show. Pablo Lopez is scheduled to start for the Miami Marlins. He is a bit banged up. It is his turn in the rotation, so we'll have to monitor that situation. And then Zach Greinke for the Royals is supposed to come off the IL today. We will see if that is the case as well. But like I said, 12 games to cover, so let's get right into it. All statistics provided today and every day are from baseballreference.com. It is the best tool out there for anything baseball statistic related, umpire stats, ballpark stats, pitcher, hitter comparisons, anything you can think of, it has it. Go check them out. It is well worth your investment. In the descriptions to the videos, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards for the golf content I create, as well as interesting research that I find throughout the week for golf and for baseball. So if you want to see some of that research, give me a follow at the links in the descriptions. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. I want to hear from you all. Do you see some of the values in the starting pitching market that I see? Do you feel the same way in that there is a offensive position that you just need to spend up for today? I want to hear about all that. I want to hear about your U.S. Open wagers if you have them as well. So let's cover the June 17th MLB DraftKings lineup card. And the first game that we have is actually the second of a doubleheader. So Philadelphia is in Washington to take on the Nationals. The first game is going on right now. So as per usual, any doubleheader, I list the players that are not in the lineup for the first game. So it's a pretty darn sure guarantee that they're going to be playing in the second game in some form or fashion, especially the catchers. So, for the Phillies against Paulo Espino, he is getting the spot start for Washington. He's mainly worked in relief, but he has started one game this season for Washington. He's pitched pretty darn well in relief. 30 and a third innings, 22 strikeouts, so not necessarily the biggest strikeout guy, but a pretty good ERA. Has not walked a lot of batters, so the whip is really good. It is a chance that you're going to be taking if you want to take Paulo Espino, but he is at the minimum. The issue with Espino is that he has pretty good platoon splits here. So anyone left-handed that you feel comfortable with the Phillies is probably going to be a pretty good play. Now, having said that, let's start with the catcher of the second game for Philadelphia, JT Realmuto. Realmuto has some decent numbers in the limited times he's faced Espino, 2 for 6 with a walk, and Realmuto's having not necessarily the best season as a catcher. We expect a lot more out of him, generally speaking, but he's having a fine season, hitting 243, quite a few extra base hits, averaging more than 1.5 points per plate appearance. So a fairly fine play today, especially in a catching market that is really, really bare. Baseball, yes, indeed, P. Hopefully your weekend is starting out all right. Who do you have today for baseball? How is your U.S. Open going? All the good stuff, but thanks for jumping in chat like you always do. So Realmuto, I really don't mind. 4,400 is a little bit expensive, but with the catching market completely bare today in terms of offensive performance, or at least offensive performance against their starting pitcher, Realmuto might not be a bad play. And then Munoz and Vierling, I've only listed because they are on the bench for this first game. Don't really like either of the plays, but there are a couple of players that I really do like if they are playing both games of the doubleheader. First is Rhys Hoskins at first for the Phillies. 2 for 6 with a double and a homer against Paulo Espino. And then Odubel Herrera, if he is in the lineup for the second game, 3 for 7, all singles, but he's not going to break the bank on you. He is having a fairly fine season, hitting .275, 5 homers. Take a look at Odubel Herrera if he is indeed in the second game lineup. So the Phillies lineup in game 1 is Schwarber, Hoskins, Harper, Castellanos, Gregorius. Herrera is playing in that first game. Alec Beam, Bryson Stott, and Garrett Stubbs. So that is the lineup for Philadelphia in game 1, and Bryce Harper is DHing. So I imagine he might get the night off, or the second game off, as he is still dealing with elbow issues. So I doubt they will want to put him in the outfield. So I imagine he is only playing one game today. So on Philadelphia's side, take a look at JT Realmuto. I do like Hoskins if he's playing both games. I do like Odubel Herrera if he's playing both games. Now for Washington's side against Bailey Falter, again, some interesting platoon splits here. Although Bailey Falter throws left-handed, he has actually struggled more against lefties than righties. But the 3 players I've listed here are the players for Washington that are not playing in game 1. So Keibert Ruiz is going to get the start at catcher tonight for Washington, and then Ari Adrianza and Yadiel Hernandez. So Keibert Ruiz, also an interesting option at catcher, switch hitting catcher, generally hits for more power from the left side at 3,800. Could be worth a speculative pick. And then Yadiel Hernandez, I really like this evening against Bailey Falter. Even though Falter throws left-handed, I just mentioned that he has some pretty good reverse platoon splits. So Yadiel Hernandez at 3,000 could be worth it. I don't want any part of Ari Adrianza. And then if the players are in the lineup for the second game, Josh Bell, Juan Soto, your usual suspects from the left side for Washington. So Washington's lineup in game 1, Lane Thomas, Cesar Hernandez, Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz, Josh Bell, Michael Franco, Luis Garcia, Riley Adams, and Victor Robles, with Nelson Cruz being the DH. Now, he normally doesn't play in the field, so it would not surprise me to see him DH both games, although they could be giving a guy some rest if they played in the field the first game. Again, with doubleheaders, you just kind of don't know. Hopefully, we'll have an idea later on in the show if that game is finalized. Last I checked, it was in the bottom of the third. So there's a look at the game in Washington, at least the nightcap between Philadelphia and Washington. Game 2 on the slate, we go to PNC Park, where the Giants travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. And right off the bat, you see that I want no part of this game from the hitting side. There is just not a lot of experience between the hitters and the opposing starting pitcher. The most plate appearances is Yu Chang on Pittsburgh against Carlos Rodon. 1 for 10, don't want any part of that. And quite honestly, both of these offenses just don't really know where they're at right now. Zach Thompson has not pitched poorly, but also has struggled with some command. So his whip is right at 1.4. He's only averaging 9.2 points per start. So I don't like Zach Thompson. But then again, I don't like much of the San Francisco offense today. Maybe Brandon Crawford, considering shortstop is pretty bare like catcher, but I'm not in love with that play. But I really do like Carlos Rodon against against Pittsburgh today. Rodon, you're going to be paying for it, $9,900. He did hit a bit of a rough stretch in May, but his last start was immaculate. He is averaging 19.5 points per game or per start. 81 strikeouts in 65 innings. I think Carlos Rodon is close to my lock in terms of the pitching market if you're going to spend up in the pitching market today. But like I said in the intro, I do think there are a couple of mid-priced players that are well worth it. But if you're going to spend up, Carlos Rodon is the pitcher to spend up on. For the Pirates side, if you don't want to use Carlos Rodon, take a look at any right-handed hitting slugger. Maybe Brian Hayes, but there are a lot of good third basemen today, so don't like that. Maybe Michael Chavis. He's hitting 261, but not a lot of extra base hit power. There's just not a lot here that I'm interested in, especially in the hitting side. If I come to this game, it's Carlos Rodon. So that is San Francisco at Pittsburgh. Now we travel to Toronto in a very, very interesting matchup between interdivisional rivals. The Yankees come to Toronto to take on the Blue Jays, and a pitching matchup that is quite intriguing. Jordan Montgomery has pitched extremely well this season. You see there, 2.7 ERA. Now only 51 strikeouts in 66 and 2/3 innings, but he is averaging 15 points per start, not a lot of walks. So the whip at 1.05, very, very good. He just hasn't gone very deep into games, but his last start out, granted it was against the struggling Chicago Cubs, but was really, really good. I expect Montgomery to pitch pretty well again today. His numbers against the Toronto Blue Jays are pretty darn good, except for a couple of players who I've listed here. But first, let's cover the Yankees against Toronto. The Yankees against Ross Stripling have performed pretty darn well. And Ross Stripling has pitched well this season, 3.14 ERA, 35 strikeouts in 43 innings, not his calling card. His whip is only 1, so again, very controlled, not getting hit a whole lot, but he is not going deep into games at all, so he's only averaging 11 points per start. And then the numbers for the Yankees hitters against Ross Stripling. Let's start with DJ Lemayhew. He is 8 for 24, all singles, but that was from his time in Colorado. He's a much different hitter for the Yankees, especially hitting leadoff. You're going to get those plate appearances. He's averaging a little bit more than 1 point per plate appearance. Again, not a lot of extra base power or any extra base power against Ross Stripling in his career, but that was from his time in Colorado. I expect DJ Lemayhew to hit at the top of the order. He's been hitting for more power once he's gotten to New York and having a fine season, hitting 250, 12 doubles, 5 homers. I like DJ LeMahieu. I really like Gleyber Torres as well. Torres really starting to get it going. He has 12 homers already. He's hitting 250, but his numbers against Ross Stripling, 3 for 9 with a double and a homer. So Gleyber Torres, while expensive at $4,600, is one of the second base options that I really like, and this is the position that I mentioned in the intro that I believe you just have to spend up for today. There are a lot of good options, but they're all pricey and they're all going to be worth it. And then 2 outfielders for the Yankees against Ross Stripling. Aaron Judge, 3 for 8. Again, all singles. I don't expect that to continue. Judge is having an MVP caliber season, 25 homers, hitting 310, slugging close to 700. The numbers there, he's had success against Ross Stripling, just all in singles. I don't expect that to continue. If he is going to succeed today, it's going to be for a homer. And then the player that I'm actually pretty excited to use for the Yankees outfield instead of Judge is Giancarlo Stanton. Now, he only has 2 hits against Ross Stripling in his career, but 2 for 9, double and a homer, and Stanton's not going to break the bank like Aaron Judge will. So Stanton is an interesting play here, and I think if I'm going to come to the Yankees outfield, it'll be for Giancarlo Stanton, not for Aaron Judge, unless I just have that money available. But for the Blue Jays against Jordan Montgomery, I mentioned that Montgomery has some pretty good numbers against Toronto. The ones that he does not. Let's start with Vlad Guerrero Jr. 3 for 9 with a homer, a couple of walks. Vladdy started to get it going as well, hitting 270. It wasn't too long ago he was hitting in the 240s. 16 homers. Vladdy's getting it going. Santiago Espinal, 4 for 8. Again, kind of like DJ LeMahieu, all singles. But Espinal leads the Blue Jays in doubles with 18. Generally hitting about 5th or 6th in the lineup. So you get those plate appearances. Really like Espinal at a price at $4,500 that he can slot in at 2nd or 3rd. Like DJ LeMahieu, one of these players, especially for 2nd, that is well worth the price today. And then Beau Buchette, if he is in the lineup, as he was removed from the game last night with an injury. They are listing him as day-to-day. The Blue Jays were going to work him out before the game today to see how he feels. If Beau Buchette is in the lineup, and it's a big if, but if he is in the lineup today, he's my lock. Beau Buchette against Jordan Montgomery in his career, 6 for 11, 2 doubles, 2 homers, averaging more than 3.1 points per plate appearance against Jordan Montgomery in his career. And Bichette's having a fine season as it is, hitting 260, 15 doubles, 10 homers, 4 steals. Generally hitting 2nd in this Toronto lineup that has started to get really going like we all expected them to at the beginning of the season. If Beau Buchette is in the lineup, he is my lock. So that is a look at the game in Toronto. So we move to Game 4, where a very, very fun pitching matchup. This is the one game with rain in the forecast. 2 former teammates, long-time former teammates, square off in Fenway. The Cardinals come to town, where Adam Wainwright goes against Michael Wacha. And this is a matchup of, I don't want to say soft-tossing pitchers, but pitchers that aren't what they used to be in terms of strikeouts, in terms of dominance. But Adam Wainwright is having a fantastic season in his own right. 2.84 ERA. Now only 55 strikeouts in 73 innings, but he's averaging more than 16 points per start. He is throwing a lot of innings, throwing them well. Has never been wild. He's not going to get himself into trouble. I like Adam Wainwright today. He's one of the budget or non-top of the market pitchers that I really like today, as the limited exposure to Adam Wainwright that the Red Sox hitters have just haven't been good. For example, you have JD Martinez, 1 for 6. I've listed him here because he's hitting 350 on the year, so he's just red hot. But JD Martinez only 1 for 6. Trevor Story, 2 for 14 in his career. So the other player that I've listed for Boston is Christian Vasquez. That is showing you how shallow the catching market is. Vasquez 1 for 3 in his career against Adam Wainwright. But Vasquez having a very good season for a catcher, hitting 272. It's pretty empty. 272, only 10 doubles, only 2 homers, but not going to break the bank on you in terms of catcher. So that is a look at the Red Sox hitters against Wainwright. Now for the Cardinals against Michael Wacha, there are quite a few more plate appearances against him, as he has traveled around a little bit in recent years. Went to the Mets for a season. I believe he was in Tampa Bay as well. So Michael Wacha against Nolan Arenado, 6 for 13 with 3 homers. Nolan Arenado is the one premium player that I want to spend up for today. That's why I was more high on Stanton than I was on Judge. I'm pretty confident that Nolan Arenado is going to be in the majority of my lineups. Like I said, Beau Buchette is going to be my lock if he's in the lineup. If it's not Bichette, I'm going to probably lock Arenado. Just really like the matchup here today. Now, Arenado has cooled off since his MVP caliber April, but he's still hitting 270, 14 doubles, 11 homers. But the person who's kind of picked up the offensive production since April is Paul Goldschmidt. Now, Goldschmidt's numbers against Waka aren't the best, 2 for 11 with a double, but he does have 3 walks, and Goldschmidt's up to 21 doubles, 14 homers. He's also hitting 333, so I do like the idea of a mini stack corner infield with Goldschmidt and Arenado. You're definitely going to be paying for it. That's why I have been scrutinizing, trying to find some values in the starting pitching market, perhaps a couple of players in the outfield to try and save some money to get this corner infield stack. So don't think I want much of the pitching in this game. If I do, it is Adam Wainwright. I think he's intriguing. Don't want any part of Michael Waka. And then I like the stack for the Cardinals. I don't mind Vasquez either if I'm not going to use Wainwright. But anything I do come into in this game is going to be on St. Louis's side. Game 5, we go to Comerica, where the Rangers face the Tigers, and a matchup that I think is pretty one-sided. I really like Tarik Skubal today. The numbers against him just aren't good. In fact, I was going to highlight one player, and it turns out he's on the IL. So the only player I've highlighted for the Rangers against Tarik Skubal is Ezekiel Duran. He's been playing quite a bit since being called up. Duran's having a fine start, hitting 319, 6 extra base hits, but that's only in 48 plate appearances. So 1 extra base hit per 2 games, really. Very solid rate there, averaging over 2 points per plate appearance in a very limited sample. Take a look at Duran, especially at second and third, where there are a lot of great options. But if you want to try to save some money at one of those 2 positions at second or third, I think it's a reasonable play. But I'm very high on Tarik Skubal, 5-3, averaging 20.5 points per start, 70 strikeouts and 62 2/3 innings. I love Tarik Skubal today. And then for the Tigers against Jon Gray, I don't think Jon Gray is a bad play either. This Tigers offense is just anemic like Oakland's. The one player that has faced Jon Gray and with any amount of success is Javi Baez. Now, anytime you think of Javi Baez, it is all or nothing. So at shortstop, where the market is pretty bare today, Javi Baez is 3 for 3 with a double and a homer. Again, very small sample, only 1 game. And Baez is having a terrible season, hitting 188. Has been dropped in the order. So 52 strikeouts in 203 plate appearances. So striking out 25% of the time. Is just not having a good season. So Jon Gray might be interesting as well for Texas, but I love Tarik Skubal today. So that is where I'm going in that game if I go there. Game 6, Miami is in Queens to take on the Mets. And again, as I mentioned in the opener, Pablo Lopez is scheduled to start. Don't know that for a fact as he is banged up. They might push him back a little bit. But if it is Pablo Lopez, it is a very good pitching matchup against Carlos Carrasco. But let's cover the Mets hitters against the aforementioned Pablo Lopez. Lopez has pitched really darn well, although coming off a pretty poor outing. 4-2, 2.3 ERA, averaging almost 20 points per start. But again, coming off a pretty poor outing, and the Mets hitters have had some success against him. I will list J.D. Davis. Now, normally you think first base for the Mets, you think Pete Alonso, rightfully so, but Alonso has not had good numbers at all against Pablo Lopez. 1 for 9 with a couple of walks. So don't like Alonso today. I like J.D. Davis. J.D. Davis 4 for 7 in his career against Pablo Lopez. Again, all singles, but Davis is hitting fine as well, hitting 260 on the season, 9 extra base hits in marginal playing time. So the success is there. He's also drawn a couple walks off Pablo Lopez for a first base position that you either spend up or save. I do like J.D. Davis as a price-saving option. And then Jeff McNeil at second or outfield, 3 for 9, double and a homer, averaging 2.2 points per plate appearance against Pablo Lopez in his career. Again, another one of these higher-priced second base options, although the cheapest so far. But the higher-priced second base player, Jeff McNeil, really like him, and could potentially be a price saver in the outfield in the lower to mid pricing tier. And then Carlos Carrasco against the Miami Marlins offense. I'm pretty high on Carrasco today. I was last week, and that backfired heavily on me. But I like Carrasco. He has a 3.93 ERA, 7-2. Again, that one of the 2 losses was last week to the Dodgers. The numbers for the Marlins against him are not good at all. I've highlighted a couple players here for you. Jesus Aguilar at 2,100. Aguilar 3 for 9 with a double and a couple walks. Again, not terribly exciting, but it is 1.25 points per plate appearance. And Aguilar having a fine season, hitting 250, 9 homers. Don't hate the play, especially at 2,100. I think I'd much rather go to J.D. Davis, especially if Pablo Lopez doesn't start. If Lopez does not start, I imagine they're going to go to a bullpen game or one of the long relievers who's not used to having a lot of innings. But for the other player for Miami, it's Miguel Rojas, and that just highlights how bare shortstop is today. 2 for 4. One of those 2 hits is a homer, and he's getting a lot of playing time, but generally hitting at the bottom of the order at 3,100. Really don't have a lot of interest, just mentioning him because shortstop is so bare today. But I do like Carrasco. I like McNeil. J.D. Davis is an interesting option as well. But a lot of these other players for the Mets just don't have a lot of good numbers against Pablo Lopez. So it'll be interesting to see if he is indeed starting. And at the end of the show, we'll take a look at lineups that have come out and see if Lopez is indeed starting. So there's a look at the game at Citi Field. We move to Houston, where the Southsiders, the White Sox, come to Minute Maid to take on the Astros, and a pitching matchup that seems pretty good on paper. I am really liking the offenses in this game. I mentioned the corner infield stack for the Cardinals with Goldschmidt and Arenado. I really like the 1-2 punch today at the top of the order for the Astros, Altuve and Brantley. I really like them. The numbers on Altuve against Giolito in his career, 3 for 10 with 2 homers, averaging 2.25 points per plate appearance in his career. And Altuve, what's there to say, probably the best leadoff hitter, and especially the best power hitting leadoff hitter in the game. He is hitting 274, 11 doubles, 12 homers. I really like Altuve. He's the most expensive option at second base of the ones that I'm going to list today. I think he's well worth it, especially in a lineup that I think will score some runs. And then Michael Brantley, 6 for 12 with a double and 2 homers. It's not very often you get a lot of power output from Michael Brantley, but a double and 2 homers, hitting 500 against Giolito in his career, almost 3 points per plate appearance in his career against Giolito. Really, really like Michael Brantley today for the Astros. So there is a look at a lot of the mini stack lineups that I'm trying to build with first, second, third, and an outfielder split between Cardinals and Astros. And Giolito's pitched fine, more than 18 points per start, but I think this is just a bad matchup for him. And then Framber Valdez against the White Sox. Valdez has had a great season as well, 18.5 points per start. But the White Sox lineup is loaded with right-handed hitters. Let's start with first base and outfield eligible Andrew Vaughn. One of these mid-priced options at first and in the outfield market as well. 3 for 5 with a homer against Valdez. Vaughn hitting .309, 10 doubles, 6 homers. Really like the potential there. Joan Moncada, while he has struggled coming off the IL, he's only hitting .181. His numbers against Framber Valdez pretty good. 2 for 7 with a double and a homer. Quite a bit more speculative, but cheaper than the other third base options that I've listed. So it's more of a player against a pitcher as opposed to current season form. And then the last player I'll list is Adam Engel for the White Sox in the outfield. 3 for 8. Again, all singles. He's not a power hitter. But if he is hitting leadoff, which he has done a little bit this year with Tim Anderson still on the sideline, if Adam Engel is leading off at 2,100, I really like the value there. So, interesting pitching matchup, but I'm much more interested in the hitters in this game. Don't think I'll come to either pitcher. That is a look at the game in Minute Maid. We go further west, where the Padres take on the Rockies. This is an exact replica of a game that we had last week, except it was at Petco. It was a part of a doubleheader, the nightcap, where Kyle Freeland faced Mackenzie Gore. I was all over Mackenzie Gore, loved the matchup for him, and it did not go my way. Kyle Freeland pitched pretty darn well. So let's cover Freeland against the Padres in that start last Saturday night. Kyle Freeland went 6 innings, gave up 3 hits, 2 earned, had 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, did hit a batter. And I've tried to pick on Kyle Freeland twice now this season. It has backfired both times. We're going to see if I can make it a hat trick, because I'm going to try to pick on him again, especially at Coors Field. The numbers against him just warrant it. Let's start with Eric Hosmer. Hosmer, 5 for 19 with a double, couple walks, hitting .284. Again, it's an empty .284. He's not even slugging .400 from a first base position you expect power output from. But, in Coors Field, at a price of $2,900, I don't hate it. That's why I'm so high on trying to take some higher priced options like Arenado, like Buchette, like the outfielders that I am, because there are some options at first base if I don't go Paul Goldschmidt. So I like Hosmer. Manny Machado, what's there to say? But his numbers against Kyle Freeland are great. 9 for 29, 5 doubles, 4 walks, hitting .328 on the season as a whole, getting on base 40% of the time. You're going to be paying for it, $6,100. I believe he's the second highest priced position player today, but well worth it. If I don't go Arenado, I certainly like Manny Machado. And then in the outfield, we mentioned him last week as well. It's all predicated on the power output he's had against Kyle Freeland, but Trent Grisham, 3 for 14 with a homer, and he is starting to hit a little bit better, and he's getting some more playing time. He was getting platooned essentially, but he has picked it up a little bit. 10 doubles, 4 homers. Again, don't love the play, but if you're thinking about a Padre stack, Machado, Hosmer, maybe Kim, take a look at Trent Grisham. And then for the Padres, for the Rockies against Mackenzie Gore, Gore's line last Saturday night was really, really bad. 2 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. He just got hit around quite a bit. And while I am still pretty low on the Rockies offense, being in Coors Field today, I'm just not going to come to Mackenzie Gore, especially at the price. Now, that was his first start against the Rockies, this being his rookie season, speaking of Mackenzie Gore. So the players I've listed here had a pretty good game against Mackenzie Gore. We'll start with Britney Rogers at second. He was 1 for 2 with a double. Randall Grichuk, 1 for 2 with a double. And then Daza, was just 2 for 2. I really like Daza, especially if he's hitting about 5th in the lineup. Grichuk has been playing. He's been hitting lower in the lineup. That's not ideal. And then Britney Rogers has been hitting 3rd lately for the Rockies. So take a look at Brendan Rodgers as an option at second base that is quite a bit less than some of the other players that I've listed. But again, an emphasis on, I think second base is a position that you just spend up for today. Don't see a lot of value in the basement part of the price board for second. So nowhere near either of the pitchers. I'm going to see if I can't make it a hat trick, go 0 for 3 against Kyle Freeland. I'm going to pick on him again, and then I'm staying away from Mackenzie Gore. Game 9, we move out to Oakland, and this is one where earlier in the season I would have said I needed an intervention if I mentioned using this one player. Well, shortstop is so darn bare today that he is getting mentioned. Elvis Andrus for the A's against Zach Greinke. And you see there I had the question marks. I don't know who is starting. Zach Greinke is still listed on the IL. That's why I have what I have there as opposed to Pablo Lopez when it's his scheduled start in the rotation. But if Zach Greinke does indeed start, the numbers against him are pretty darn good from these Oakland hitters. And Greinke has just not pitched well this season. 0-4, 5.05 ERA, averaging 6.5 points per start. And while the Oakland offense has been bad all season, the numbers against Greinke are pretty darn good. Let's start with Elvis Andrus. Andrus, 11 for 30 with 3 doubles. So there's a lot of plate appearances here. Some pretty good success. Now, Andrus is only hitting .224, but he does lead the A's in doubles. He has 3 homers, 3 steals. Again, at a shortstop position where if you're not going to spend up for Beau Buchette, you're going to have to find somebody in the low to mid-priced tier. Elvis Andrus at least has success against Zach Greinke. And then 2 outfielders for the A's, Ramon Laureano and Chad Pinder. Let's cover Laureano first. Laureano against Greinke in his career, 6 for 14, 2 doubles, a triple, and a homer. So indeed, if Greinke does start, I like Ramon Laureano at 4,500, and then Chad Pinder at 2,300. Pinder, 6 for 15 with a double. Again, a lot of singles here, but a lot of success. Pinder hitting .250 on the season, 9 doubles, 5 homers. Not going to break the bank either. So for Oakland side, if Greinke starts, I don't mind going there. This is a game that I could see being a little bit higher scoring than you think when you think of Royals and A's, 2 of the worst teams in the league. The A's just have good numbers against Greinke. And then speaking of good numbers, the Royals hitters have had success against Frankie Montas. Montas is upwards in price only because of the strikeout safety. 80 strikeouts in 76 and 2/3 innings. He has averaged 18.5 points per start because of those strikeouts. He generally goes quite far into games. But the Royals hitters, let's start with Hunter Dozier. Dozier, 4 for 11, double and a homer, 1.9 points per plate appearance in his career against Frankie Montas. Hunter Dozier also hitting .261, 11 doubles, 6 homers, averaging 1.6 points per plate appearance in the season. Really like Hunter Dozier at 3,700 for first base or outfield. And then Whit Merrifield, second base and outfield, especially as the leadoff hitter. You're going to get those plate appearances. Again, I said, I think this game is going to be higher scoring than people think. Whit Merrifield, 6 for 13 in his career against Frankie Montas with a double. Now, Merrifield struggled this season, only hitting .212. But again, it's the hitting at the top of the order in a game that I expect to have some runs scored. Didn't list him. Bobby Witt Jr. has never faced Frankie Montas. Obviously, Witt Jr.'s rookie season, but Witt Jr. playing really darn well as of late, hitting .250, 15 doubles, 8 homers. You're going to be spending a lot for Witt Jr. I didn't list him because I would much rather go to Beau Buchette if he's in the lineup. But if Bichette's not playing, Bobby Witt Jr. could be interesting. So I don't want either part of the pitchers today. Even Frankie Montas against a Royals lineup that generally struggles. The numbers are good against him. And then Greinke has struggled mightily. So just like the White Sox and the Astros, this is a game that I will be attacking with offense, quite honestly. So we move to game 10. Minnesota takes on Arizona at Chase Field. And obviously a game where the pitchers don't have any plate appearances against the opposing hitters, except for one matchup here. So Madison Bumgarner has been in the league a long time, mostly with San Francisco. Because of that, he has a little bit of plate experience or plate appearances versus Carlos Correa. Correa 2 for 11, so not a lot of average there. Bumgarner's generally had the success, but Correa's one of the 2 hits Correa has is a homer. And again, I mentioned that shortstop's so bare. Correa's hitting well, 304 on the season. Now only 5 homers, so at 5,100, I really don't like the play there, but it is an option, especially since there's a little bit of success here against Bumgarner. And then for the Diamondbacks against Smeltzer. Smeltzer is one of the pitchers that I really, really like today. Smeltzer 3-0, 2.38 ERA, 6,500, a very, very good price on him. There's only one player that has any plate appearances against him. It's Jordan Luplow. He's 0 for 3. But the left-handed hitters for the Diamondbacks just have not produced. And that's where Devin Smeltzer struggles. He's got a pretty good platoon split against left-handers. Being a left-handed starter, it's a reverse platoon split. But Devin Smeltzer, as I mentioned, 13.5 points per start this season. I like his matchup against the Diamondbacks. But I have listed Alec Thomas. Alec Thomas hitting leadoff for the Diamondbacks. If you're not a believer in Devin Smeltzer, Thomas hitting 270, getting on base 33% of the time, 6 doubles, 5 homers, does have a few steals. But I really do like Smeltzer today. So don't think I'm going to go there for Correa. Probably not going to use Alec Thomas, although if I don't use Smeltzer, I'll think about it. But I really like Smeltzer today. Game 11 of 12. Cleveland travels across the country to take on the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium. And another matchup where not a lot of plate appearances or experience against one another, especially on Zach Plesac's side. So Plesac has only faced 2 of the hitters for the Dodgers. It's Mookie Betts and Trey Turner. Neither of them have a hit off of Zach Plesac. So do I think Plesac's going to dominate this game? No, I don't. Plesac's had a fine season. I mean, he's 2-4, 4.7 ERA, but 43 strikeouts, 61 in the third innings, not the highest rate. The whip is okay. He's been getting hit around a little bit. Doesn't walk a lot of batters. So I've listed Trey Turner, even though he's 0 for 3, only because shortstop's so bare, and then Will Smith because catcher is just as bare. There is not a lot of experience here. It's just the fact that the positions are bare. That's why I've listed who I have for the Dodgers, and they're generally expensive anyway. And then for Kershaw against the Guardians, there is a little bit of history here, especially from players like Austin Hedges, who spent some time in San Diego. Josh Naylor from his time in Cleveland, in Cincinnati, I believe. But like Austin Hedges, even though catcher is so bare, Clayton Kershaw has dominated Austin Hedges. Hedges is 1 for 20 with 7 strikeouts against Kershaw. No, thank you. So I've listed Ahmad Rosario from his time in New York with the Mets. Rosario 2 for 7 with 2 doubles in his career off of Clayton Kershaw. And Rosario's having a fine season, been recently moved to the second spot in the order, so you're getting more plate appearances. Rosario hitting .272. He has a few extra base hits. He's stolen 7 bases. I like Rosario, and again, at a shortstop position that's pretty bare. It was surprising to see him at 4,600, but again, it's just a position that doesn't offer a lot today, so take a look at Rosario if you think Clayton Kershaw is still rusty coming off the IL when he got touched up last week in San Francisco. But I'm not coming to this game and pitching. Again, Kershaw, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach. Got burned by him last week against San Francisco, so I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach with him. So not sure I'm going to come to this game at all. Too many unknowns. And then the final game on the slate for the evening is another intra-divisional battle in Seattle, where the Angels take on the Mariners at T-Mobile Park. For the Angels hitters against Robbie Ray. Ray, the strikeout machine, 81 strikeouts in 77 and 2/3 innings, averaging 17 points per start because of those strikeouts. He generally works deeper into games, about 6 or so innings per. So you got some strikeout upside here. I don't love the price, but he is another mid to upper tier pitcher that I don't mind. With Adam Wainwright, I mentioned how high I am on Devin Smeltzer. There's a couple other starters that I kind of glossed over, but I wouldn't mind using. But Robbie Ray against the Angels hitters, there's really only one or two really successful hitters against him. Let's start with Anthony Rendon, back off the IL, still nursing that hand injury. But if Rendon is playing, he's 5 for 12 with a double and a homer in his career against Robbie Ray. Now Rendon obviously not having the season he wants to. Again, having went on the IL just recently back, only hitting .230. But the numbers here against Robbie Ray are pretty darn good. And then Matt Duffy, from his time in San Francisco and Robbie Ray in Arizona. Duffy, 4 for 6 with a double. So very small sample size, but very, very good sample size. And Duffy's hitting .288. No homers, just 3 doubles, but hitting .288. So at the price of $2,900, don't hate it. And then for the Mariners against Michael Lorenzen, there's only one player that has any plate appearances against him. It's Adam Frazier from his time in Pittsburgh, and Michael Lorenzen dominated him. 1 for 14 with a triple and a hit by pitch. That's it. So I've listed 2 left-handed hitters for Seattle. That is all pure speculation in terms of baseball. Left-handed hitters versus the right-handed throwing Michael Lorenzen. J.B. Crawford, I've mentioned it several times. Shortstop's just bare. So take a look at J.B. Crawford if you want to pick on Michael Lorenzen. And then Julio Rodriguez, the exciting rookie for the Mariners, having a fantastic season, hitting .260. Leads the league in steals with 17, 11 doubles, 8 homers. Take a look at Julio Rodriguez if you are trying to pick on Michael Lorenzen. I just do not like the price at all. If I'm coming up this high, I might as well go to Judge. So that is a look at the 12 games on the slate this evening. We'll come back to the intro here and figure out if there are any lineups that are out. So let me bring up DraftKings very quickly, reload, and there are quite a few lineups. It looks so Texas and Detroit's full lineup is out. So we'll go to Comerica. Texas and Detroit. I highlighted Ezekiel Duran. He is hitting 7th. So at the $2,600 price tag at second or third, if you're not going to be spinning up at second, take a look at Duran. But I highly recommend that you do. A lot of good plays at second today. And then third base is, if you're not going to spend up for Arenado or Machado, I don't hate the play of Duran at third. And then for the Tigers, Javi Baez hitting 5th at 4,300. Don't love it, but shortstop's so shallow today. you might have to go there. And at least he's got some good success against Jon Gray. That is the only full game lineups that are out. So San Francisco and Pittsburgh. San Francisco's lineup is out. So we'll go to PNC again. San Francisco, if you want to try to pick on Zach Thompson, I would use left-handers. You've got Jock Peterson hitting 4th. Brandon Belt is back from the IL. He's hitting 5th. Brandon Crawford hitting 8th. Again, there's just not a lot here. There's no plate appearance history against Zach Thompson. Anything that I would recommend is completely speculative and left-handed hitters versus Zach Thompson, the right-handed thrower. Let's see. You've got the Yankees in Toronto. Those lineups are not out. Boston's lineup is out against St. Louis. So we go back to Fenway. You have Christian Vasquez is catching, hitting 8th. Not the best, but to be expected. And then JD Martinez in his normal 3rd spot in the order. We go check Miami and the Mets. The Mets lineup is out. Miami's is not, so it's still listing Pablo Lopez as the starter. So again, any recommendations that I'm making on the Mets side is with the assumption that Pablo Lopez is starting. It very well could be they push him back. So make sure you're constantly checking before lineups are submitted to make sure Lopez is pitching. But if he is, J.D. Davis is hitting 8th. Again, not ideal, but at 2,600, it presents a lot of potential savings, and there's a lot of success there. Jeff McNeil hitting 5th. We covered Texas and Detroit, the White Sox and Houston. Houston's out. I'll take you to Minute Maid, but I was all in on 2 players. They're hitting 1-2 in the order, like normal. Altuve first, Brantley second. San Diego, Colorado, neither of those lineups are out. Minnesota, Arizona, neither of those lineups are out. Kansas City, Oakland, no. And Angels, Seattle, Cleveland, and the Dodgers, no. So that is going to do it for the June 17th slate for MLB DraftKings. Let me know in the comments how you do. Did you use any of the price-saving pitchers that I recommended? Did you spend up at second base? Who were some of the players or pitchers that you targeted? Who were you trying to attack? Just let me know about all that. Thanks for tuning in and watching and listening. I appreciate the support. P for jumping in chat like you always do. For all of your DFS contests that you play for tonight, June 17th, MLB DraftKings, may all your bets be profitable.